Adam Kownacki moves to 19-0 with 15 KOs, with a second round TKO over Gerald Washington. Now, I've seen quite a few people online saying that they were disappointed with Washington. They expected more. Personally, I expected Kownacki to win, but I didn't know how quickly he would win, whether it would go the distance. I had no idea, but I did expect him to win. Washington fought a very strange fight because he put himself in harm's way. He was getting tagged by a lot of shots, and he wasn't really defending himself properly. He didn't attempt to move away or cover up effectively. He just stood there acting as though he could take Kownacki's punches without any kind of damaging effect. Here's what I think happened. Gerald Washington has been criticized, including by people like me, for not having the confidence, not having the mental toughness to make it as a contender, or one of the top fighters in the heavyweight division. And I think he's taken that on board, particularly after the Miller fight. He's taken that on board and he's thought to himself, I need to work on my confidence. When somebody has me under pressure, like Miller did, I don't need to panic, because I think that's what happened in the Miller fight. He panicked. I mean, in the first round, he landed a few shots, but after that, he was panicking under the pressure. I think this time around, he probably trained with his team to stand his ground a bit more. Don't panic when you're under pressure. But he overplayed it, because he probably got hit with them first few clean shots from Kownacki and thought, you know what, I can take those. This guy don't hit that hard. But when the third and the fourth and the fifth punch, consecutive punch, starts landing, then all of a sudden they do start hurting. And your legs start doing something different than what your brain wants them to do. And so Gerald Washington quickly found himself in trouble. So I think that's what it was. I think Washington had worked in camp and probably for several months on staying calm under pressure and not just running or panicking when somebody's coming at you, because he knew that Kownacki would be coming at him. He knew that Kownacki was a longtime friend of Gerald Miller and would fight in a very similar way. So I think that Washington saw this as kind of like a second bite at the cherry. It's not Gerald Miller, but it's the closest thing you're going to get to Gerald Miller. But yeah, I just think he overplayed it and was deluding himself that he could take those kind of punches consecutively, consistently, and keep his, equilibrium. He obviously couldn't. Now, Kownacki, we all know how he fights. He comes forward, he slings big shots from the opening bell. He applies a lot of pressure. Very much like his friend, Gerald Miller. I don't know which one of them hits harder. People are saying that Kownacki's got serious power after seeing what he did to Gerald Washington. I'm not sure that Kownacki's a one-punch knockout man. I mean, he's a very big dude, and if you've got any heavyweight hitting you that consistently on the chin, it's going to be a problem, all right, for most fighters. But I don't think he's up there with the elite punchers at all. I just think he is someone who is consistent and, is very high volume. And he did a better job than either Deontay Wilder or Gerald Miller. But it has to be said, I think Washington made it easy for him. Now, you also have to take into account the fact that styles make fights. Deontay Wilder gave Gerald Washington a lot of space. Deontay Wilder did not apply relentless pressure like Kownacki did from the opening bell. He wasn't throwing loads of punches like Kownacki was, because I've seen people say Washington was a shell of himself in there and he was a shadow of the guy who fought Wilder. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would look at the fact that Wilder didn't do what Kownacki did. Facts. Wilder didn't come forward and swarm him and put him under pressure and throw loads of punches. Wilder didn't do that. Wilder gave him space and time to box. And that's what Gerald Washington likes. He likes you to give him space and time to box. And if you do, he's got a decent jab and he's got some decent long-range punches. Kownacki wasn't having any of that. And he was on him like a harbor shark. So, yeah, Kownacki did a good job. Also, people have mentioned the fact that Kownacki's previous opponent, Charles Martin, put up far greater resistance. And indeed he did. Charles Martin was getting hit by those shots which knocked Gerald Washington down and, eventually finished the fight with a TKO. Charles Martin was taking those punches for 10 rounds and he didn't go down. And he was getting clobbered around. But he actually managed to land some of his own punches too, Charles Martin. So what does it mean? Probably not much. But it does at least mean that Charles Martin takes a much better punch than Gerald Washington. I'll say that. How good Charles Martin turns out to be in the long run, we'll see. Or how terrible he turns out to be in the long run, we'll see. But I think the people in my boxing group who are saying that Washington is actually a step down from Charles Martin, that's probably a pretty strong argument right now. Yeah, maybe Washington is a step down from Charles Martin, judging on Charles Martin's last performance against Kownacki. But after the fight, Kownacki called out Deontay Wilder. Wilder was actually ringside for this fight. And every time the camera focused on Wilder and they had Wilder up on a big screen, the whole arena booed him. So there was a lot of Polish fans in attendance, a lot of Kownacki fans, and they booed Wilder loudly, boy. And Kownacki called Wilder out. He said he wants his opportunity. And everybody wants their opportunity, but let's be realistic. There's no way that Deontay Wilder is going to fight Kownacki next unless the Tyson Fury fight or the Anthony Joshua fight don't come off. And then you never know. Actually, he's got Dominic Brazil, doesn't he? So Kownacki's probably going to have to wait at least a year to get a crack at any of the belts, perhaps. Let me know what you felt about Adam Kownacki's performance. Were you impressed? How far do you think he can go? Do you reckon he can give any of the top heavyweights trouble? And who would you like to see him up against next? Me personally, I would love to see Adam Kownacki versus Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz is just signed with PBC. And I'd like to see that, man. I think it would be an absolute barn burner. Two very similar fighters, similar in stature. Ruiz has much faster hands than Kownacki, though. That has to be said. And I think it would be a real memorable, action-packed fight. A fun fight. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Kownacki's performance, Gerald Washington's performance, how far you see Kownacki going, and what you expected from this fight. Were you disappointed? Do you have another explanation as to why Gerald Washington just stood there and acted like the punches weren't hurting him? With no defense. Yeah, let me know, people. It's Hatman, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.